stop driving immediately. If you own a Nissan, your life could be at risk. A shocking recall has just been issued, impacting millions of vehicles due to serious safety defects. These aren't just minor glitches. These are defects that could cost lives. So, before you start your car again, you need to hear this breaking story. What Nissan just admitted could change the way you think about safety forever. The automotive giant Nissan is in the hot seat, and for good reason. Over 800,000 vehicles have been flagged in what's shaping up to be one of the most alarming recalls in recent years. The issue? A defect so dangerous that it could lead to accidents at any moment, without warning. Specifically, we're talking about faulty brakes, malfunctioning steering systems, and even airbags that could fail in the very moment they're needed most. For drivers, these aren't just inconveniences, they're potential death traps. What's worse, these problems didn't just appear overnight. Reports are surfacing that complaints about these issues have been ignored or mishandled for years. Nissan is now scrambling to control the damage, but it may be too little, too late. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, has stepped in, launching an investigation that could lead to massive fines and legal action. As of today, Nissan has issued a formal recall, urging owners to stop driving affected vehicles immediately and contact their dealers for urgent repairs. But here's the kicker. Not all vehicles have a fix ready yet. That's right. Some drivers may be forced to wait, leaving them in a state of uncertainty and fear, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Stick with us, because what we've uncovered about Nissan's handling of this crisis will shock you. To truly grasp the magnitude of this recall, we need to rewind and examine the chain of events leading to this alarming moment. Nissan, a household name and a beacon of reliability for decades, is now facing a crisis of unprecedented proportions. From the sleek Altima to the family-friendly Rogue and the rugged Pathfinder, these vehicles have become staples in driveways across the globe. But today, that trust is being shattered. What went wrong? At the heart of this recall are critical defects that can lead to catastrophic failures. We're talking about brakes that might not respond when you need them most, steering systems that could completely fail mid-turn, and airbags, your last line of defense in a crash, that might never deploy. These are not small problems. They're life-threatening flaws. Here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Reports are emerging that Nissan may have been aware of these issues as early as 2019. Customers began filing complaints, describing terrifying moments when their brakes suddenly gave out or their steering locked up without warning. But instead of taking decisive action, Nissan appeared to downplay these concerns. Internal emails obtained during the investigation reveal that some executives considered these complaints as low-priority issues. Imagine that. Potentially fatal defects labeled as low priority. What could have driven this mindset? According to insiders, it's the relentless pursuit of cutting costs. Over the past decade, Nissan has faced mounting competition, particularly from brands like Toyota and Honda. To stay competitive, they reportedly leaned heavily on cost-cutting measures. This included sourcing cheaper materials for critical components and outsourcing manufacturing processes to lower-cost suppliers. While these strategies might have saved money up front, they've now come back to haunt the company and their customers. Take the braking system, for example. The electronic control module, a crucial part of modern braking systems, has been found to have a design flaw that causes it to overheat and fail under pressure. One customer's harrowing account described driving down a highway at 65 miles per hour when the brakes suddenly stopped responding. She had to use the emergency brake to avoid a collision, narrowly escaping disaster. Her vehicle? A 2021 Nissan Rogue. And then there are the airbags. In certain models, faulty wiring can prevent them from deploying during an accident. This issue alone has been linked to multiple injuries and at least one fatality. Think about that for a moment. Trusting your vehicle to protect you in the worst-case scenario, only to find it's incapable of doing so. But here's where things get really damning. Documents from a whistleblower within Nissan's engineering department suggest that these issues were flagged during the testing phase of some models. Yet the launch dates were never delayed. The reasoning? Nissan's leadership was determined to meet aggressive sales targets, even if it meant cutting corners on safety. One chilling memo reportedly stated, "The cost of a recall is lower than delaying production." This revelation has sent shockwaves through the industry. If a company as established as Nissan is willing to gamble with safety, what does that say about the broader automotive landscape? As more details come to light, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, has ramped up its investigation, and lawsuits are already piling up. Legal experts predict that the financial fallout for Nissan could reach billions of dollars, not to mention the irreparable damage to its reputation. Meanwhile, customers are left in a state of limbo. The recall process is notoriously slow, and many dealerships are reporting a shortage of replacement parts. This means affected drivers might have to wait weeks or even months to get their vehicles repaired. For some, that's simply not an option. They're forced to choose between risking their safety or parking their cars indefinitely. quickly. And let's not forget about the ripple effects. This recall isn't just a problem for Nissan owners, it's a wake-up call for the entire automotive industry. If a major player like Nissan can allow these kinds of defects to slip through the cracks, what other hidden dangers might be lurking in our vehicles? This crisis has reignited debates about the need for stricter safety regulations and more transparency in how automakers handle recalls. But the most important question remains: how did it come to this? How did a brand that built its reputation on reliability and innovation fall so far? To answer that, we need to dig deeper into the culture and leadership within Nissan. The warning signs were there, but they were ignored. Why? Because profit took precedence over people. As we'll uncover in the next section, the cracks in Nissan's leadership may have played a much bigger role in this disaster than anyone initially realized, and the consequences are only getting worse. Now let's talk about what this means for you, the driver, the car owner, the everyday consumer. If you own a Nissan affected by this recall, the stakes are incredibly high. Think about your daily routine. Whether you're driving to work, dropping your kids off at school, or running errands, safety is something you should never have to question. But with these defects, every trip could be a gamble. Imagine hitting the brakes at a stoplight only to find they don't work. Picture turning the wheel on a busy road and realizing it's locked. Or worse, getting into an accident and discovering that your airbags failed to deploy. These scenarios aren't just hypothetical, they've happened to real people. And now, Nissan owners across the country are left wondering, is my car safe to drive? Even if your vehicle isn't part of the recall, this situation raises broader concerns about trust. How confident can you be in a company that ignored warning signs for years? And if you're considering buying a car, how will this crisis influence your decision? These are questions every driver should be asking. The financial impact can't be ignored either. Recalls often mean time off work to get repairs, unexpected expenses, and a drop in resale value. For many, it's more than an inconvenience, it's a burden. And if Nissan doesn't handle this crisis effectively, it could spell long-term consequences not just for the brand, but for you, the consumer. Worsening crisis and consequences. Just when you thought the situation couldn't get any worse, new revelations continue to surface, painting an even grimmer picture for Nissan and its customers. The recall, already impacting over 800,000 vehicles, is now being expanded as additional defects are uncovered. Recent reports indicate that certain models may also suffer from compromised fuel systems that could lead to leaks and potential fire hazards. This isn't just a safety issue, it's a ticking time bomb. Dealerships are overwhelmed with frantic customers seeking answers, but the reality is grim. Parts are in short supply, and the repairs are taking longer than expected. Many Nissan owners are being told they'll have to wait weeks or even months before their vehicles can be fixed. In the meantime, they're left with few options. For some, this means renting a car, a cost Nissan isn't always covering. For others, it means risking their safety by continuing to drive vehicles that could fail at any moment. The financial fallout for Nissan is escalating rapidly. Analysts estimate that the cost of this recall could exceed $2 billion, factoring in legal fees, compensation claims, and plummeting sales. But the damage goes beyond dollars and cents. Nissan's reputation, carefully built over decades, is now in freefall. Once loyal customers are turning to competitors, and dealerships are struggling to maintain trust in their local markets. The lawsuits are piling up too. Class action filings from affected drivers claim negligence on Nissan's part, arguing that the company prioritized profits over safety, and it's hard to disagree. The internal documents revealed during investigations show a troubling pattern of decision-making. One particularly damning email chain discusses how delaying the recall could minimize immediate financial impact, even as engineers warned of potential fatalities. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this crisis is how it exposes vulnerabilities in the broader automotive industry. If Nissan, a global powerhouse, can allow such egregious oversights, what does that say about smaller or less regulated manufacturers? The crisis has prompted renewed calls for stricter oversight, with lawmakers and consumer advocates demanding reforms to prevent future disasters. And then there's the human cost. Families who've lost loved ones in accidents linked to these defects are stepping forward to share their stories. Their grief is a stark reminder of what's truly at stake, lives that can't be replaced. The ripple effects are far-reaching, shaking confidence not just in Nissan, but in the very notion of automotive safety. So, what happens next? Nissan is scrambling to contain the damage, but their options are limited, offering financial compensation to affected drivers, ramping up production of replacement parts, and implementing sweeping changes to their quality control processes are all on the table. But even these measures might not be enough to restore trust. This crisis isn't just about faulty cars or corporate missteps. It's about accountability and the price we pay when companies prioritize profits over people. And as we'll explore in the next section, the cracks in Nissan's leadership have played a pivotal role in allowing this disaster to unfold. The question now is whether they can weather the storm, or if this marks the beginning of the end for one of the world's most iconic automakers. As we dig deeper into Nissan's response to this growing crisis, a disturbing pattern of leadership failures begins to emerge. emerge. At the core of this debacle lies a corporate culture that appears to have prioritized short-term profits over long-term safety and reliability. This isn't just a mechanical failure, it's a systemic one. Over the past 5 years, Nissan has seen a revolving door of executives. Constant leadership changes have led to inconsistent strategies and a lack of accountability. Insiders describe a company environment where engineers and quality control specialists raised red flags, only to have their concerns dismissed by upper management. The reason? Tight production schedules and aggressive cost-cutting goals set by executives who seemed more concerned with meeting quarterly earnings targets than ensuring customer safety. One former employee, speaking anonymously, shared how management routinely ignored internal reports detailing potential safety risks. "We were told to stay quiet and focus on meeting deadlines," they revealed. This head-in-the-sand approach trickled down to every level of the organization, fostering a culture of complacency. The crisis also highlights the absence of strong oversight. Nissan's board of directors, tasked with ensuring the company's integrity and direction, has faced criticism for failing to intervene sooner. Experts suggest that more robust governance could have prevented this disaster, or at least mitigated its impact. Instead, the board appeared content to trust management, even as warning signs mounted. Adding to the turmoil is a history of questionable decisions at the top. Former CEO Hiroto Saikawa resigned in disgrace following allegations of financial misconduct, leaving a leadership vacuum that the company has struggled to fill. The lack of stable leadership has only exacerbated the crisis, as interim executives grapple with mounting public scrutiny and internal discord. This pattern of poor decision-making and leadership instability has left Nissan floundering in the face of its greatest challenge yet. Without a significant overhaul of its corporate culture and leadership structure, the company risks not only financial ruin, but also the complete erosion of customer trust. And as we'll explore in the next section, their path forward will require nothing short of a miracle. With the crisis now fully exposed, Nissan faces a pivotal moment in its history. The road ahead is treacherous, but it's not without possibilities. Experts and industry analysts agree that Nissan must take bold, decisive action to regain public trust and stabilize its operations. So, what does the future hold for this embattled automaker? First, addressing the immediate recall issues must be a top priority. Nissan has already begun ramping up production of replacement parts, but the pace needs to accelerate. Customers can't wait indefinitely for solutions. To manage this, Nissan may need to forge partnerships with third-party suppliers or invest in new manufacturing capabilities to expedite repairs. Additionally, offering comprehensive financial assistance, such as covering rental car costs or compensating for lost wages, could help mitigate some of the anger and frustration among affected drivers. Second, the company must rebuild its reputation. Transparency will be critical in this endeavor. Nissan needs to communicate openly and honestly with its customers, shareholders, and the public. Acknowledging past mistakes and outlining a clear plan for the future can go a long way toward mending relationships. This includes holding leadership accountable and demonstrating that safety and quality are now the company's top priorities. One potential avenue for recovery lies in innovation. Nissan has long been a pioneer in electric vehicles, with the Leaf being one of the first mass-market EVs. Doubling down on EV technology and sustainability could help the company pivot away from this crisis and position itself as a leader in the industry's future. A bold announcement, such as committing to an all-electric lineup by 2035, could signal a fresh start and capture the attention of environmentally conscious consumers. But recovery won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight. The financial strain of this recall will weigh heavily on Nissan for years to come. To navigate this, the company might need to consider restructuring or even seeking external support. Government intervention, in the form of loans or grants, could provide a lifeline, but only if Nissan can convince regulators and taxpayers that it's worth saving. Perhaps the most critical piece of the puzzle is cultural transformation. The systemic issues that allowed this crisis to unfold must be rooted out and replaced with a culture of accountability and innovation. This means investing in employee training, strengthening oversight mechanisms, and fostering an environment where safety concerns are addressed immediately, not swept under the rug. Nissan's competitors will be watching closely. The company's ability to bounce back could set a precedent for how the industry handles similar crises in the future. Will Nissan's response be a blueprint for redemption or a cautionary tale of corporate failure? As the dust settles, one thing is clear: the stakes couldn't be higher. For Nissan, this is more than just a recall. It's a battle for survival. And for the millions of drivers who've trusted the brand with their lives, it's a question of whether that trust can ever be restored. Only time will tell if Nissan emerges from this crisis stronger or if this marks the end of an era.